Welcome back everybody to my channel. So in this video I'm going to react to Andrew Tate and his brother discussing religion, Islam versus Christianity. Let's go. Let's see what they got.
I'm going to answer one for you. Somebody keeps asking, which is quite an annoying question, people keep asking you about factional Islam. I'm not going to name the factions. I'm from this faction, don't listen to that faction. I'm from that faction, don't listen to this faction. I'm going to answer this as a Christian. Let me tell you something. You think I don't understand factional Islam? You think I don't understand the difference between Sunni and Shia? That after the death of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the Sunni listened to the teachings of all four of the caliphs, whereas the Shia only really specifically listened to Ali and not Abu Bakr and the others. You think I don't know factional Islam? I'm a Christian. You think I don't know this stuff? You think he doesn't know this stuff? What I would say is, my brother's a Muslim, mind your own fucking business, because you can't even speak for him and tell him what faction he's a part of and who he's...
He says mind your effing business about his brother converting to Islam. But actually, within Islam, like the factions he's talking about, it really is a big deal what faction, what sect you are in. So of course people who are religious, particularly other Muslims, are going to wonder, what sect are you in? I know for a fact, because I've experienced this when I go to places where debates happen in London, that a Sunni and Shia, for example, could not just dislike each other, hate each other. I've seen it with my own eyes. So all I'm saying is that it's a valid question. What sect are you in? That's all I'm saying. Of course, not all Sunnis hate Shias and not all Shias hate Sunnis.
Let me give another answer.
Go ahead.
Let me give another answer. You're right. Let me give another answer. It is extremely unprofessional, and most people are amateurs. When I go through life, I call people amateurs. I must say 100 times a day, I see the way somebody's parking a car. I see the way somebody is walking unwillingly into a chair. I see the way somebody didn't notice the person directly behind them who could have stabbed them in the neck. I see the way the person online instantly buys into a faction.
Just to say to all of you watching, if you walk into a chair, if you was not aware that somebody was behind you ready to rob you, it doesn't make you an amateur. That's his opinion. I'm just saying. I'm aware he's an intelligent person. However, he's not right about everything. You can be in a certain mindset where your focus must be on something more important than walking into a chair. It doesn't make you an amateur. You might be thinking, for example, of why the world is in such a state, how you can help other people, how you can get a job, why you got fired. You know, so I'm just saying, it doesn't make you an amateur because you did not see that chair in your path or notice a person behind you. You know, the mind and perception is limited. Just saying.
A war they don't understand or would never have the ability or the capability to participate in themselves. I see amateurs all around me who are amateurs. Let me answer this as a professional.
Okay, let's see if he's an amateur when it comes to speaking about God, because that's something that I take myself to be an expert in, actually. And of course, if you watch my content for long enough, I'm not talking about this imaginary God that the Christians and the Muslim believe in. With all respect, it's imaginary.
As a professional, what you do is you solve the meta point before you argue the micro point.
True, but what is the meta point?
The larger point to discuss here is that the world needs God. The world needs God, and all societies need God. And it has been proven, and you can observe this right now in the West, that societies without God, godless settlements, godless countries, do not function in a way which is pleasurable to experience. So first we have to fix the fact that the world needs God. Now once everybody understands that the world needs God, and the world has accepted that, and everybody is religious, then we can go down a level and start to discuss the different religions in peace.
No. Once everybody is religious. Religion is a control mechanism. The actual meta point, the deepest and truest and most important point to answer everybody watching this is not, does God exist? It's not, what God should I believe in? It's, who am I? Until you know who you are, what you are, and that's not your identity, that can be debunked in seconds. You know, whether you are Andrew Tate, Tristan Tate, Kelly, Winston, whoever, you know you can change your identity at any point. At any point. You can change your name, and race is literally a social construct. It just is. That's not a debate. For example, I say this all the time, some Somalians would call themselves black, some would not. Because it's not an inherent aspect of a person. It's something superimposed onto a group of people. The most important point, or meta point, to put it in his language, is who am I? Because until you know what you are, what is this thing that is perceiving the world? What is this thing that the world is appearing within? I have a body, my body keeps changing, but I'm the observer of the change. So what am I really? How is it that you can change from Christian to Muslim? It's because you are not inherently a Christian. You was never inherently a Christian. You are not now inherently a Muslim. As some people say, yeah, I'm born Muslim. No, you're not. You take on the identity that was thrown upon you, placed upon you, or that you picked up yourself. What are you actually inherently? What is truly self? When we know what this is, when we discover this, then we can actually talk about the world. Then we can actually understand and perceive the unity that we all are. Because we are all that observer of our ever-changing bodies and minds. And that is that which is higher or distinct, and something that I would say we should, if we want a more peaceful world, seek. In the same way he's saying we should understand that God exists, I would agree, but in a different way. Not understand that this idea of a God exists, but understand that there is something higher than our personalities. Higher, so to speak, of course. Because really there are no levels. And after this, understanding this meta point, or in his perspective of what meta point is, or the meta point is, God being that which we should be aware of, and then discussing the smaller points, well, then conflict is still going to arise. If we want to end conflict, it shouldn't be that we join religions. That's amateur thinking, my fellow expression of consciousness, Andrew. That's amateur thinking. But maybe he's not aware of the true self.
Then we can go down a further level and discuss the different factions within a religion, the different interpretations of a holy book.
As I said. But no, that's when the conflict will begin.
Or you solve the meta.
So then we would end up, I have to chime in again, then we would end up right where we were with conflict. Because, again, I've seen it time and time again. If you're watching this, maybe you've seen it too. Two Christians can literally hate each other over their interpretations of the same book. Two Muslims could hate each other over their interpretations of the same book. So war can still persist, can still emerge because of the conflict. To reduce conflict, we need to reduce this idea of a separate self, because it's just that, an idea. It's something that we use, and it's beautiful. The separate self is a beautiful thing, but it's not what we truly are. We hold onto it so tightly as if it's really us, and that's why we defend it to the death. But what if we are the space that is allowing that tightness to happen? What if that's true? What if we are all that space, allowing our thoughts and emotions to play, to dance, to move, to change, and for our body to literally dance, let alone walk and talk and grow and shrink? What if we are all that one space experiencing changes? And when a space has a certain form within it, that form will call itself a person. And because it's in a form, it now has this sense of a individual identity. Then it sees another form that will call itself a person, which will also beget the sense of an individual person. They now see each other as individual people, That's two people now. But they share the same space. They were made out of the same space. They were created, so to speak, from the same space. So fundamentally, they are still this observing consciousness space, observing that form that took place. But they never truly became the form. Because the form is inextricably linked to the space around it. The space permeates it. Just like a fish in water, it can't get away from water as it's in the water. It's everywhere. I said this before, it's like a fish in the ocean asking another fish, have you seen any water lately? That's what these forms within this space, within this consciousness space, that's what they are. That's what they're experiencing. We are all forms of this one thing. Call it the source, call it consciousness, call it the universe, call it space. We are all forms of this one thing, taking ourselves too seriously, thus creating identities that are false from the truest perspective. What if it's true that we are all that one space, that we're already unified? And you can come to see that it is true.
It is asinine, it is thought porn, and it is amateurish to discuss details. You don't sit and discuss the details of a car. I would like to have carbon side skirts when you don't have the money to buy a car. It would be stupid for you to sit there and say, I want to discuss what type of carbon side skirts I would like on my Lamborghini, when you don't have the finance to afford a Lamborghini. But
the thing is, this is how I feel, but I just don't use the word stupid, about people who claim to know the truth of reality through their religion or science. But since he used the word stupid, I'll use the word stupid right now. It would be stupid to bring forth an opinion on reality when you don't know what reality is. How can that make sense? How can I talk about rocket science if I don't know what a rocket is, let alone the science to make it? How can you talk about reality if you don't know what reality is? How can you talk about yourself if you don't know what true self is? Wouldn't that be stupid? Again, I don't use this word. You all know this. But since he brought it up, I'm just holding up a mirror.
you need to be able to buy a car. Then from there, you can go down the further points until you eventually evolve into a position where...
It's so interesting because he's so close, really. Because he's right in that sense that you need to understand the largest or the deepest point first. Again, he's saying God in the sense of a external God, Allah. And then talk about finer details in the world. Because you have a better vantage point, a better connection to other people as well, to then speak about certain things. There will be a more common understanding amongst each other. But the thing is, it's that belief in this imaginary God, because it only exists in your mind. It's the only way you can talk about Allah or Jehovah is using your mind. However, the true self is observing the mind. So it's literally before the mind, distinct from the mind, cannot be touched by the mind. So I would like to talk to him about non-duality.
To discuss insurance and where you're going to park the car.
Yeah.
But before that, it is thought porn. Now, thought porn is actually something we suffer from majorly in the West. And a lot of the freedom fighters and right-wingers and people who consider themselves smart love thought porn. They love to sit, talk, discuss maybes, philosophies, ideas.
Well, I could say that a lot of people are immersed in identity porn. And he would be one of them, since he strongly identifies as this top G Andrew Tate, I'm now a Muslim person. Again, identity is not what you truly are. And we all know this actually when we see a dead body. Like if you see your loved one who has passed in a hospital or in a casket, isn't it very clear that they are not really there? That you're looking at literally a body with no feeling of that person you once loved? Isn't that true? Don't you see that clearly? That it's now just a body, hence you become sad. Because a true person, that life force has gone. Where's the identity now? You see, these bodies are literally like shells. And the thing is, religious people would say that, the body is like a shell and the soul is within it. And they'll be right to use the word soul. I don't really use the word soul, but life force, the mind, yeah. It's using the body. So then what are we truly if we're not even our body? And that takes out race. That really kicks race out of the equation if we're not even our bodies. Because race is predicated upon our bodies, right? So what are we really? And our minds change all the time. We can have amnesia. So if we're not our bodies and our mind is so fragile that it can forget its identity, then what are we substantially? What are we truly? That's the question that needs to be pondered. And that's what I answer on my channel all the time. But again, in short, we are the observer of the body and the mind. It's literally distinct and untouchable from the body and mind. And we are all that same thing.
Without giving any hardcore actionables.
Without ever taking action themselves.
And without ever taking action. Thought porn will keep you in a rut, just as bad as inaction.
For example, a lot of these people, men need to be strong, men need to be providers, are poor and weak. They are. I can see they're weak from their videos, and I know they're poor from the lives they live and from just Googling their basic assets.
That is so unnecessary a point to make. You're saying you've seen people on the internet, men, say something good, which is they should provide and be strong. And you're saying you can see that they're not well off and they're not strong. That doesn't mean that they don't aspire to be stronger and have more money. We all start somewhere, including them. They talk about their coming up. So that in and of itself is just a diss for no reason. Like, what's he thinking there?
Men need to be strong and be able to provide for their families. Weak men say that on the internet all the time. So that's exactly what you're talking about. Thought porn, yeah.
Wow, that is not a good equivalence. And I'll be surprised if Andrew actually agrees with that point. No, it's good that men are waking up to what I would agree with as well, truth that they should be providers for sure. And they I wouldn't say should be physically strong, but it will be beneficial to them to be physically strong. But they definitely should be providers. And if they're not at the current time, with the world as it is and inflation and everything, maybe they're still trying. Like, why kick them down like that? That just didn't make sense. That wasn't a good example. Like, you just crapping on them for what? It would be okay if he's saying that these people are not actually trying to better themselves. These men, they're saying, giving out rhetoric, but not trying to better themselves. If he was saying that, then fair enough.
The meta point. The meta point is that there's a large contingent of the earth which has become godless. And when you are godless and lost, you default worship Satan. They have become Satanists.
Again, from my language, I would agree with this in the sense that if you don't understand the true nature of self, not God, even though I could say the true nature of self is God as well, and I do say that, but at least unless you understand the true nature of self, then yeah, you're going to be worshipping the mind. When the Bible or the Quran talk about Satan whispering, what's the only thing that could possibly whisper to you? As in internally, your own mind. If you hear a thought, it comes within your own mind. It's only the mind. The mind is the ego. The mind can be satanic in its thoughts, and it could also be angelic in its thoughts. But to mold the mind to receive more angelic thoughts or pure thoughts, to move away from the religious way of speaking, then you have to detach your grip on your egoic identity. And that can be done by being Muslim or being Christian, because you're giving your identity you're putting it on a level below God. So you're humbling yourself. That's okay. That's good. That's actually a good thing. So it can be done through religion as well. But ultimately, yeah, it comes down to you identifying with your mind being who you are. That's what's going to allow negative thoughts or evil thoughts to corrupt you, because you think it is you, and there's nothing you can do about it. But no, it's not true. You are the space, my friends, that allow thoughts to come and go. Satan cannot really touch you. It's just like when I'm talking about witches. Witches are real in the sense that there are people who identify as witches and they perform spells. And their spells can affect people. I've witnessed this. But the thing is, the spells are really just suggestions that they are saying. And then the person, the recipient or victim, is believing in the power of that person's suggestion words. They're hocus pocus. It's the power of their belief. They're literally creating a reality where, oh yeah, this person is a witch, therefore they have power over me. But no, the words, the spells, the crystals, the magical wands, the voodoo dummy, voodoo doll, that's all just a perception and experience you are having. The experience itself is not taking place inside you, as in inside your body. The experience and your body is taking place inside of something greater, and that's what you truly are. Notice experience changes all the time. I said earlier, your body changes all the time, but yes, so does your common experience, your everyday, your moment to moment experience. This moment is different to this moment. Like, really understand, this moment is different to this moment and this moment. You understand what I'm saying? It goes on and on and on. There's constantly this change happening. So what is allowing change? You might say time, but time is just a mental idea. You and your friend could be looking at the moon. You could ask your friend, how long have we been looking at the moon for? And you don't have any watches around. You might say 20 seconds. She might say a minute, 40 seconds. Because it's completely subjective linked to our feeling that we have in our body and minds. Time is literally just a concept. What we are aware of for sure is change. But what is aware of the change? So nothing can truly affect what you really are. And again, this is why, as I said at the start, this is why it's about understanding what you really are, as opposed to just becoming religious. As he said, everyone become religious first, then we can talk. No, everyone know what you are first, and then we can talk. Know what you truly are. Try to discover this witness that is witnessing this moment. Can you find it? This conscious presence that you truly are. Experience appears. To what? Your body appears. You have an experience of your body. What's it appearing within? Why can't you see inside your head? Because your head is inside you. When we say we are going within, we're not really going anywhere. We are melting our perception of us being solely the body or solely the mind. That's what going within really is. It's just melting into what we truly are. But we're not going within the body. You can't go within the body. There's no soul inside the body. There's no mind inside the body. I know that's really controversial to say, but it's true. The body itself is the mind. In a sense that it's a form of the greatest mind, which is that one singular consciousness, which is pure, pervades all of our minds. Our minds are just bubbles within that one consciousness. That's why we perceive the same world, but from different perspectives. If consciousness ended in your brain, how could you be aware of anything outside of it? Because it's that which is aware, right? You'd have to assume that there's something outside of your head. You'd have to assume it. And light is going into your eyes and all of this stuff. You'd have to assume that. But consciousness is that which is aware. So for there to be something outside of your head, I've said this so many times. If consciousness is confined to your head, then how could you know anything outside of your head? It sounds silly, I know. But all you could say is, no, because light enters your eyes, blah, blah, blah. No, apparently, you can only be aware of that which is outside. So you can only be aware with consciousness, right? If you can only be aware with consciousness, and that is true, then you'd have to assume that something came outside of the boundary of your consciousness, which would be your brain, to enter the awareness of your conscious brain. But that's not the case. Too many assumptions there. What's really happening in reality is that everything you are perceiving, literally, with all your so-called senses, is within you. That's why you can see outside of your head or at a distance from your head. Because the space in front of your head and your head are both the experience. You are not the head experiencing space. Space and your head is the experience. This gap between our bodies is the experience. We always think that we are perceiving from the body, but it's just not true. It just seems like that, and it's supposed to seem like that. So you can feel individual and have an awesome experience as this wondrous singular source of all. Yeah, let me let the video run.
And they want everyone around them dead. They want their own children dead. They want you dead. They want everybody controlled. And unless you are praying and celebrating the death of others, they want you dead. So first things first, the world needs God. Once that is achieved, I am prepared to discuss the different religions and to discuss the different factions within religions. But until that point, you will see me say that I have more in common with Christians than I have opposing them ideologically. Yeah. I am happy to sit with any Christian, and I will not argue with you about Islam versus...
The funny thing about that is you say that now, but I've witnessed it so many times that actually, when it comes down to it, Christians and Muslims have a very different worldview, actually, on many things. I've seen it so many times. You can see it on the internet. But yeah, they're not as similar as you'd think they were as outsiders. Not to mention the whole thing of the Trinity, or of Jesus being God. That's a huge one. So
I have been invited on endless panel shows. People ask me, how do me and you get along when we're different?
And just to say quickly, whether Jesus is God or not is a fundamental aspect of the Abrahamic faiths. So yeah, they're not as similar as he's saying.
How does that affect our brotherhood? We have more in common through the common belief of God and sanctity of family and believing in life and loving people and trying to do the good thing than we have as differences. So I have no interest in discussing these things. None. Until we have fixed the problem that there are Satanists currently in charge of a huge population and some of the most powerful countries on this planet. Let's fix that first before we start arguing stupid points, because that is asinine and amateur.
Yeah, I agree completely. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And again, why don't you and your brother debate Christianity versus Islam? Because there's nothing to debate. I believe...
Yes, there is. It's going to happen at some point, you two.
Things about God that he doesn't. He believes things about God.
Not have to, but it probably will.
I don't. They're different religions for a reason, but we have a common enemy. We have a common enemy, which is evil. Yeah. So I can say...
Even that, again, I've listened to many Muslims and Christians speak, and some would suggest that each other are the enemy. So, from their own doctrine. So, interesting.
For example, if I think my brother's a thief, and he's going to steal $5 from me, he thinks I'm a thief, and I'm going to steal $5 from him, and we sit inside this house arguing about who could trust the other person because the other person might steal $5 from us, when there are 50 armed burglars in our house with guns ransacking our house, we would be stupid. So no, we're not going to do that. Don't ever ask me that again. It's amateur. Our goal is to make people understand that you will never be truly successful without God and respect for God.
Once that is achieved, if it is achieved in our lifetimes, then we can start discussing all of these little meta points, these little interesting debates you want to see.
Then they are interesting.
But for now, I welcome all Christians to be devout to their faith. And I welcome all Muslims to be devout to their faith. I welcome all people who believe in God to be true to God and be good to people. That's what I welcome.
You see, I understand where he's coming from. And, you know, he's coming from this perception that fundamentally the Christian doctrine produces good people if you follow it, and same for the Islamic doctrine. However, as I said earlier, conflict still arises within the Christian faith itself, let alone between Christians and Muslims and Jews and Hindus, like if you want to bring them into it, although Hindu is not really the true name. That was the British, but anyway, that's another story. So yeah, I understand where he's coming from, and he's trying to be diplomatic and fair, and that's great. But I'm just going straight to the root, and that is conflict will keep happening. I mean, why has conflict not stopped since Christianity, since Islam? Islam brought the truth, apparently. Why didn't that make everybody turn Muslim? The Christians had the truth before, apparently. Why didn't everybody become Christian? Why hasn't everybody stayed Christian even? If it's just so true. Oh, because we're living in sin. That's what some of you Christians are thinking now. That's fair. You can think that. But it's not that. It's not because of that. It's because, or I could say it's because of that, but the sin isn't what you think it is. It's identifying our true nature, shrinking it to that of an identity. Becoming Christian or Muslim in the first place. Becoming Jewish in the first place. Becoming Ben, Kelly, Raphael, black, white, man, woman, all of these things in the first place, in the sense that identifying with those things, those labels, those concepts as being what we truly are, that's the issue. The concepts are fine for the most part. Race, I'm not so sure about. But concepts in general, like man, woman, and your name, that's fine. However, identity in and of itself can allow for conflict, because we start to love our identity and take our identity to be ourselves. So we're going to, of course, try to defend our identity if we feel like it's under attack. That's natural. Of course you would do that. But when you understand the true self, my friends, my fellow expressions of consciousness, you realize there's nothing to attack. The other person is you. The other person is literally another form of the exact same source in the most literal sense. It's made out of the same thing. It's basically you, but a different form. Because you, when I'm saying you are not the body or mind. Again, you are the space that the body is formed within. We say that the baby is formed within the mother, within the female's body. But what's that cycle, that birth taking place within? A space, right? Some space. For a thing to exist, there must be space for that thing to exist. But that space isn't just a physical space. It's also that which is allowing even physical space to be. Physical space meaning that which we can say separates objects. But it's a deeper space, a thinner space, or a more fundamental space. I call it pure consciousness, or God. And that's what's really allowing everything to be. And that is you. And how can I say it's you for sure? Because you, my friend, are that which experience is appearing to. Yes, you are fundamentally infinity itself, observing a finite aspect of itself that you call enter your name here. I could go on and on. I hope I've made enough of my points. Comment below, of course, if you have anything to say. Have a wonderful day or evening, my fellow expressions of consciousness. And hey, subscribe. Maybe one day I'll have a big channel. Yay. Take care.